Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
They say dumb things, this we know, but it's all just part of a great show. Dick's easy going about most things. Andrew is unsure what he may bring. Audience of one is on the air. Audience of one and Dick don't care. Audience of one, they are legit. Audience of one, let's have some fun. Audience of one.
Social equity for a very niche market. It's the Audience of One show on Conroe's 106.1 and 104.5 FM, streaming on irlonestar.com and available wherever you get your podcast from. I am Andrew, next to the guy who drinks beer from the backside of a bald eagle. It's Dick, Star Registry Schisler. Let's have some fun, buddy.
Oh, yeah. It's my birthday week.
That's right. We're on the air. Let's have some fun. Happy birthday.
After that song, you know that reminds me of, have you ever seen Never Stop?
No, I don't believe that I have.
You ever heard of it?
It sounds familiar. Is this like a spoof movie of some sort?
Yeah, it's that the Lonely Island Boys who used to be on SNL all the time.
Okay.
They made that DICK in a box.
Oh, right. Yeah.
and Mother Lover and all that kind of stuff.
Very familiar. We played that on the show at one point.
But
Last Mother's Day, I believe.
you should check out that movie. It's because he plays the main character. I forget his name, Adam Sandberg, I think. And he plays
Andy Samberg.
Andy Samberg.
Right.
Plays an idiot pop singer,
No way.
leader of the pop group. And it is the songs. There's a song about Iraq. And then there's so many songs and they're so funny, and it's great.
Well, good, man. We have got a banger of a show today.
Oh.
In fact, the run sheet was like over 2.5 pages long at one point. As I was putting down ideas, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to cut a lot of this. Just a lot of stuff happened. You know, your president was convicted.
My president? Why do people
felony.
always assume that I like Donald
I
Trump?
don't know. I'm just
No,
saying
you're
that
not
to
the
be
only
provocative.
one. Everyone assumes. I was like, is it just because I said I don't like
Well,
him?
the very first president to ever be convicted of a felony. And we're not going to get into all that because that's not necessarily what we do on this show. But I did think it would be pretty funny to imagine Donald Trump, rather than serving prison time, doing like community service. Can you imagine? In his big oversized, jacket at a homeless shelter or at a soup line or something. So, this is the best soup. People are saying the Trump soup is the best. It's not the Wuhan soup. It's the best. That kind of stuff. It would be hilarious.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man. No, I doubt he's going to do any time.
Yeah, there was a
but
lot of...
pretty amazing week in news, if you think about it.
Yeah. And he just got in trouble for paying off, incorrectly putting on his... taxes? Is that what it was?
No, I think
because I know he paid off that lady, that porn star lady.
Supposedly, that's the whole thing. Well, I guess because he was convicted, we must believe the jury.
But he did
right?
He did it 41 times or something.
34 different accounts, charges.
Because that was for every single time he did it.
Something, I don't know, man. You're asking the wrong guy.
Well,
but basically, he was using funds, campaign funds, to pay off this person, to hush. Rather than just, if it were a personal check, it would have been fine. But
I don't think it was
saying
just campaign
funds.
I thought, because it was going on for a long time.
Well, it was back in 2015. That's when the accusation started.
When I was reading, I'm not very good at that. It made me think of the scenario where you're trying to do something illegal, like say you're trying to buy a lot of drugs or pay off a prostitute or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then of course a businessman would be like, "Can I just do it in installments?" And I just think that's really funny to me. It's like, I want to pay you off.
Yeah, I don't. I think it was 34 different, not payments. It was just different wrongdoings that they coupled all together and made it into a felony charge. So.
But it was towards her, right? I think it was all for her.
Yeah, it's all around the same thing. Yeah.
And but so, from what I understood, it was different installment payments, and that's why
I don't think so. You could be right.
But that's really funny to me.
This is the AO News Hour right here.
But no, isn't that's hilarious to me though, because you think about when you watch all the movies where you see the illegal, shady dealings, like you got the cash. It's like, here's my briefcase of cash. But now it's like, oh, how do actual real business people get away with this kind of crap?
Well, obviously they don't.
Well, you think he's the only one that?
No, absolutely not.
But I was like, it's such a funny conversation where it's like, let's make a deal. I'll pay you $2,200 every July 2nd for the next 10 years. And like, that's the agreement.
I don't think that's the way it worked, man. But
I think
it'd be funny.
I think it's
it'd be
around
funny
the same
to
concept.
imagine that.
Well, it's kind of like paying car payments.
Right.
Right? That's your car payment.
Hooker payments.
Hooker payments. That's IOUs.
No, we talked last week about Steven Seagal knowing Putin, that they're like best of friends in the infinite friend group or whatever he called it. And I thought about this throughout the week of just how silly that relationship is.
Being friends with a leader?
Well, have you ever been friends or known a famous person? And I imagine, I don't think I really have. I mean, I've known loosely known some professional athletes, but they weren't necessarily famous. But I haven't had a friend who was really famous. And I think it would be interesting, that relationship at first, it'd be really cool. You'd be like, oh, wow, I'm friends with Dolly Parton, or whomever. But then after a while, it just kind of becomes normal. They're just a normal person to you. So it made me think about this scenario.
TV show is Entourage? Isn't that like that based off Mark Wahlberg?
I have no idea.
You ever heard of that show?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
I really think it's based off Mark Wahlberg, and those are all his buddies that, of course,
he
brings with him.
Yeah.
And they're his normal friends, but not really normal.
But then it would be interesting, like, do you think Putin at first thought the relationship was kind of cool because it was, Steven Seagal, an American, movie star, and then after a while, he kind of got tired of him? Because Seagal, let's be honest, is getting more out of that relationship than Putin is. And then you think eventually Putin just kind of, I don't know, stopped answering the phone eventually?
I feel like Putin likes anybody that says Russia is awesome.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So I think that's all he cares about. Because right when he says, like, oh, Russia's really great, but Australia's cool too. And you can't say that.
What?
You can't say that. You're not my friend anymore.
Seagal's getting a lot more out of that relationship is my point. But
maybe.
Anyways,
I
I just couldn't stop thinking about the two of them hanging out.
I like it.
And like breaking karate boards together.
Let me show you this move I did 40 years ago on Hard to Kill.
How do you get your beard so black?
Dyes it, dog.
I know.
No, I think that's great. I'm trying to think of other relationships people had that are similar. Where like a real famous person, and then they have like a friend that is just like the neighborhood grocery, sacker.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. I've seen television shows where it's like IOUs from famous people, and they're doing something for their friend that's not famous, and building them a house or something, or redoing their kitchen. Celebrity IOU, I think, is what it's called.
Actually, there's a great. Do you know who Sam Shepard is?
Singer?
No, he's
that's Sam Smith.
Sam Shepard. I'll pull him up for you. He is a actor, writer. He's a stage guy.
All right.
And when I pull up a picture of him, you'll know who I'm talking about.
Okay, he looks familiar.
So he was the dad in The Notebook. I'm trying to think of other things.
Yeah, okay.
He was in, but he was like this is back in the 80s. He was more famous. But there's a documentary about him and this year-long, or lifelong friendship with just a normal weirdo dude. And it's so funny watching, who's an actor, Sam Shepard. They have letters. They went over the letters over the past 60 years they wrote each other, because that's how they stayed friends. And then every time they go to the friend's got to be doing something weird.
Of course.
So one scene is him reading the letters in the bathtub naked, and this is now. This is they filmed it now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this guy made a choice, and he's not a famous person. I think he was a teacher or something. He's not a famous person, but it's all right, you want to film this scene? Okay, it's 6:00. It's my bath time. So, grab a couple of letters. You choose whichever ones you want to talk about, but I'm going to do it in the bath. And he's sitting in this old school bathtub and with his legs up.
So odd.
And I was like, I guess that's his friend. I guess he likes that.
Everybody has a friend like that.
Oh, I don't. Okay, yeah, sure. I'm a little weird.
I wasn't saying
but
you.
You're not
but
famous.
But
you're not famous. Okay.
No, but everybody's got somebody like that they know. It's a little weird. It's a little off.
Yeah, but anyway, that documentary. I wish I knew the name of the documentary, because I don't know why I watch it. I just like Sam Shepard because he does a lot of playwright stuff.
Sure.
And yeah, and I was like, this guy's interesting. I wonder like who his best friend would be. You know, it's got to be interesting. Yeah, it definitely was. He like lived in this small town in Texas with like 4,000 people.
This sounds very relatable.
And it shows him just walking to the grocery store, you know, talking about Sam. He's like, oh, he's my buddy. We visit once a year. We always see each other once a year. And he's very alone. It's very sad.
This is never mind.
Are you talking about me?
No, of course not.
But yeah.
Continue.
It's interesting. I forgot what it was called.
Oh, man.
It's called Darling Companion.
Well, there you go.
No, it's not. That's definitely not it. That's
Well, I got to thinking about something the other day. You know, we've got the Olympics coming up. I've been watching a lot of sports here lately on TV, and I saw something that I wanted to talk about. When they do the national anthem before games, when you're watching a game at home and the national anthem comes on, what do you do? Do you kind of stand up and put your hand over your heart and do the thing that everybody else does when they're at the game? Or do you just kind of ignore it because you're at home by yourself?
Yeah, I'm at home.
Yeah. It's kind of weird, right? Because if you're at the game, you're going to stand up, you're going to do what everybody does for the national anthem.
Of
But
course.
when you hear it at your house, you just kind of go, whatever. But
Well, it's similar to people praying.
Okay.
Because, like, when you're in church, everyone's like, bow your heads.
Sure.
Or whatever. And everyone's bowing their head. And then you look up, see who's not bowing their head.
Are you that guy?
Very similar to that.
Are you the eyes open guy during the prayer?
No, I'm always the guy like, oh, we're doing that? I got to use the restroom.
But it's interesting, though, because when you're by yourself, me included, I'm not doing the Pledge of Allegiance or whatever, the national anthem. But I have noticed that if you're in a group, you kind of look around and some people might, hey, man. But it really changes if you're at like a watch party. If you happen to be, I don't know, a national championship game.
If there's like 5 people in the room, no one cares.
Right.
But if there's like 20, there's always that one guy.
And then all of a sudden, everybody gets quiet.
I think I might, honestly, I think I might take off my hat. I think I might do that.
It's interesting, though, because it's like a couple people, no big deal. But the more people you have suddenly, so it got me thinking, you're not really doing it out of respect. You're doing it to sort of prove a point to everybody else. It's kind of an episode in conformity, if you will, or an exercise in conformity. Everybody's kind of, oh, yeah, I guess we all have to do this to be very reverent and respectful of the country. But meanwhile, if you were at home by yourself, you wouldn't have done a damn thing. It's just kind of funny, interesting.
Well, also, it's also one of those things, I imagine, if you're paying 100% attention to the game, you might be more inclined. But I know, like, when I watch the Astros and stuff, I never see the national anthem.
Yeah,
so it's not part of the event. It's not part of the norm.
Like if you're at the Super Bowl
party.
But
the Olympics is a great thing too. They win the gold. They
play
always,
it every
they always show it.
You're going to be quiet and respectful every time. Nah, you're just not. Again, unless you're at a large event, maybe they will. All right, buddy, you ready to kick off the show for this week? Again, we have a banger of a show this week, guys. Banger. Might be a little long just because we've got so much interesting stuff to talk about. But I posted this on our show Facebook page, Audience of One Show with Andrew and Dick, that an Indiana judge ended a years-long debate between a restaurateur and a county commissioner that ultimately ruled that tacos and burritos are sandwiches. Now, at first when I looked at this or read this, I said, this is dumb. This is a waste of court time, money, et cetera, et cetera. Why are we doing this? Why is this even an argument to begin with? But the story is actually really fascinating. So apparently back in 2019, Martin Quintana, who's the owner of Famous Taco. I love that. I love the names of some of these restaurants. A Mexican-style themed restaurant. Basically, he was wanting to open a new restaurant, and when he went in to get the permits required to open this restaurant and change the zoning from single-family residential to commercial, apparently there was something in there that said that the restaurant had to be, quote, sandwich bar style or Subway style.
I see it.
Okay. And so he took him to court. And I guess the judge eventually ruled that tacos were indeed going to be considered sandwiches in order for him to bend the law. But I got to thinking about this. This sounds a little racist to me.
Well, when you said Mexican themed, I was like, I never really heard that term. Because it would just be a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah, Mexican style. Maybe I said Mexican themed. Mexican style restaurant.
I like it, though, because that's something, because you know that conversation that owner had with the city. I'm like, wait, what?
They were just trying to keep a Mexican restaurant out of this area is what it sounds like to me. And they said, well, if you're going to put a restaurant here, it has to be sandwiches. Come on, man. In order to be approved, he would have to agree to a written commitment that highlighted specific restrictions to his business. To be compliant, Quintana's restaurant would have to be, like I said, quote, a sandwich bar style facility that sold made-to-order or Subway-style sandwiches. What a racket, man.
One thing you're not also telling is he wanted to use his house.
Yeah, so it said from a residential area to...
But residential area...
But it's okay if you're selling sandwiches.
It's his house.
Or it's just in an area that's... It may not be his house. It may have been someone's previous residence that he's bought, and he wants to use it as a restaurant. He may not live there. I don't think they...
Because I imagine that rule exists because you can't just buy a house in a neighborhood and be like, you know what? Because that's best in town. My favorite spot
sure
is in a neighborhood.
Residential
it's
area,
really
yes.
crazy. So I always wonder what the legal part of that, because I feel like it's not.
It's probably not zoned strictly commercial then. Yeah. Or I'm sorry, residential. That's probably what it is. But anyways, in Indiana, in this certain place, tacos are sandwiches, which just doesn't make... What do you think? You think a taco is a sandwich?
Well, what's the definition of a sandwich? I always thought it was like 2 pieces of bread.
Uh-huh. So we're pushing the limits of what bread is here. I mean, tortilla bread? Kind of is, right?
What does that mean? Hot dogs would be sandwiches, too.
Oh, I've heard that as well, yeah. I think actually by definition a hot dog is a sandwich, right? Meat in between 2 pieces of bread.
Yeah.
Maybe you could just sell hot dogs on the side and pass. Anyways, he won. Congratulations. For about a decade, next story from CNN.com, for about a decade, the residents of Los Angeles County neighborhood, have been bedeviled by mysterious shattered windows, cracked windshields, and near misses from tiny projectiles. But they finally caught the culprit. An 81-year-old man whom the police are calling a serial slingshot shooter. This old dude has been going around for 10 years.
I love it.
Shooting a slingshot, probably just like he did as a child, through windows just to cause mischief. The guy's name, listen to this, Prince King. How well adjusted do you go through life with the name of Prince King?
Well, I mean...
His parents did him absolutely no favors.
Well, you know, it reminds me of a story. I remember in high school, my buddy had one of those houses where the backyard kind of curved around to like the side of the house. So like you park and you play basketball and all that kind of stuff. And then like you had the grill and everything. It was kind of, I would say, like it's in front of the house almost. Like if you're driving by, you could see all of us hanging out right there.
Right.
Doing like, had the table, had everything. Well, some kids were driving around with paintball guns, shooting up houses.
Mm-hmm.
And
as kids will do.
But
not 81-year-old.
Well, and we get in our car to chase because they came back around and they shot at us. Mm-hmm. And because we had our cars parked up, and one guy pulls in and he's like, "Hey, you know your car's like, all your cars are like covered in paint." And we're like, "What?" And then we heard noises.
Did you get those meddling kids?
Well, we're chasing down these meddling kids,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden, the dad started following us.
I'm Dick Schisler.
And he was honking his horn, and we're like, "Why is this guy?" And he thought we were the kids, so he literally drives like 80 miles down the street and gets in front of, like, slams on his brake in front of us. We're like, "What the hell are you doing, man?" He's like, "You kids need to stop shooting up our houses." Da, 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 da. And we're like, "Whoa, it's not.
It ain't us.
It ain't us.
It ain't us. We're chasing the bad
We're trying to find the kids." And he's like, "Well, fuck.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoops. I think you caught it. Well, it says after years of sporadic vandalism reports, a sergeant noticed some similarities in the incidences and began to dig deeper. And old Prince King, I bet you they were looking for probably a 25-year-old kid who started this when he was a teenager and just couldn't stop. Imagine their surprise when they found out it was an 81-year-old. Well, in a related story, neighbors of the 81-year-old man accused of being a serial slingshot shooter who terrorized his neighborhood for a decade was found dead a day after he was arrested.
That's unfortunate.
Prince King, who lives in Azusa, died of heart disease in a private residence the day after he was arrested for his vandalism reports. This is all this man had. This was keeping him alive. They took his reason for living away, and he died the next day.
Well, what I love about this is, you know, in the past 10 years,
oh my God,
people upgraded their houses with cameras and everything, so they probably started putting it together. Well, anyway, if you read the report, they go into his house and they found the bearings, and they found...
Oh, yeah. He was probably really good at it. I mean...
Oh, yeah, well... I mean, he had to adjust the tension because he's getting older, and he's like,
yes.
But I imagine this man just sitting in his backyard, just shooting slingshots, trying to like practice. And he's like, this is what he does, kind of like that guy taking a bath. It's like, this is what he does.
You think he knows Putin?
And then the cop's like, we got him. We got the evidence. We found the slingshot.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, he had all different sizes he would use. I imagine he'd be like, okay, well, for this house, I need to use a larger ball bearing because they got double pane over there. That's single pane. I can use smaller. Yeah, if he'd been doing this for decades, you know what? You probably don't just one day get up and decide you're going to do this at 71 years old. He probably had been doing this for a long, long time in other areas. Maybe he just moved there.
I mean,
I don't know.
Have you ever been vandalized?
I mean, I'm sure I have.
Because I've told you the story about my car getting vandalized when that kid drew the...
I've had a rock thrown through a car window at one time. I guess that's considered vandalism. Oh, they stole something, though. So
but, like, at your house?
No, I don't think so.
That's what I meant. Like, at your house, like, you come home, and you're like, what?
Did they spray paint dick on your...
No, they
on your garage door?
No, I never told you this.
I mean, you probably did.
I was in our neighborhood, and some kid... What I thought what it was that little kid hat that you put on and had a little...
That's not what it was, though, was it?
No. And
was this a phallus? Did someone key a phallus
someone
in your car?
drew a phallus doing
yes.
It was
emitting, yes. And I think you owned it and said, yeah. You liked it, right? Like you...
Well, I was like, I'm not paying like $800, so I just left it.
Or you added to it. You're like, I'll fix this
up,
make it a little bit better.
They wrote on the one door, they wrote F-U-K, U, so they didn't even spell it right. And then on the other door...
At least have the nerve to use some proper pronunciation and punctuation.
On the other door, they keyed it honestly looked like one of those hats. You know what I'm talking about? With the spinning
I can
wheel,
only imagine.
The propeller on the top.
The beanie cap, yes.
The beanie cap with the propeller. That's what it looked like. I was like, what a weird thing to draw. And then, of course, my buddy's like, that's not what that is, Richard. And I was like, oh, that's really terrible looking. These guys are terrible. And
that's awesome.
Because I think I was 16 at the time. 17, and then I remember...
That's right in the wheelhouse of where you should know. Aren't you drawing those on most of your notebooks anyways, as most 16, 17-year-old
I wasn't
kids
really
do?
into that stuff.
Me neither.
But I'll never forget my parents having the conversation after about 6 months of having it on the car, and my parents were like, are you ever going to fix that?
Kind of like it.
And I was like, well, I don't want to spend $800. Like, that's a lot of money just to... Like, people don't really even see it. It was a silver car, so you don't really see it.
So you made it more visible.
No, and then finally I guilted my parents into. They're like, "We'll pay for it.
We'll buff it out
for your Christmas gift."
Oh, that's the worst.
And I was like, "That's an expensive Christmas gift. Like, that's a real expensive Christmas gift."
Yeah, but you got screwed out of an actual Christmas gift.
Yeah.
And see, the thing is, that's so selfish. That was really a gift for them because they didn't want their son driving around in the penis mobile.
Yeah. Oh, you couldn't even see it though. Like the only way you see it, if you see it at that certain angle.
Was it like it was cold, or what do you mean?
No, it was a silver car. So if you key a silver car,
Nick.
I know, but you understand what I'm saying when I say it's silver. Like you don't really see it.
I get it. You understand what I mean when I say it's cold.
Well, again, I thought it was a beanie cap with a propeller on it, so you couldn't really tell.
Just got out of the pool, guys.
Yeah. No, it was more of like a stump. Yeah. It was that's what I'm saying. It looked like a beanie
Audience
cap.
of one. Wednesdays, every 10 a.m., everyone. Awesome. Well, did you hear the news that they are going to try once again to go down to the bottom of the ocean and visit the flipping Titanic? According to a report from the Wall Street Journal, Larry Connor, a real estate and tech billionaire from Ohio, and Patrick Leahy, the founder and CEO of Triton Submarines, are planning to make the same expedition that the Titanic wreckage that was done. What was that, just last year, I guess? Where it didn't go so well, where they were using like a Nintendo controller to get down there or something. Do you think they'll use an Atari controller this time, or you think it'll be a little bit more legit?
Keyboard, mouse.
Yeah, something.
That's the right way to go.
So the way it goes, though, this Patrick Leahy, apparently he was, I say apparently way too much, he was in the business trying to make these submersibles just like the last guy was. I forget his name.
Yeah.
And the owner of the Titan, what is the name of the other one? Not Triton. It's what was the one that crashed?
Idea.
The one that exploded. It wasn't Triton. It sounds very, very similar. That's why I'm getting confused. Anyways, he was cutting corners, trying to speed up this process to be the first one to offer a submersible to get down to the Titanic. So that's why he rushed it. And after that thing exploded, basically everybody's interest in going down the Titanic stopped. Like, well, we ain't doing this.
Yeah.
And so this guy's already sunk a bunch of money into having commercial travel down, to the Titanic or wherever. And so he's got to push this back to the forefront. And now here it is again. What are we doing, folks? What are we doing?
Well, what's weird to me is I could have sworn that director of Avatar has gone down there.
Again,
because he's for some reason a random sub guy.
Yeah, but it was in a real sub, not like a submersible.
Well, I'm saying, like, how much would it cost to go into that sub and go visit the Titanic?
It's not as cool, man. It's not like the same commercial. I think, didn't he use a military submarine for that?
I have no idea.
I think so.
Because it's not like we haven't been down there before.
Correct. And I think the reason is they want to do it for commercial, to have larger windows for viewing so people can actually see it and, enjoy being that far underneath the ocean.
Well, they didn't even have, even the one that combusted didn't have windows.
Titan, that's the other one. His is called Triton. The other one is Titan. That's why I'm like, I know there was.
But I thought the Titan one, the one that exploded, didn't really even have windows.
Oh, no, it had an extra large viewing portal. That was one of the things they thought was the point of weakness that actually caved in.
You should really see Godzilla, because that's actually in the movie.
What, the submarine imploding?
Well, that concept of imploding, it's pretty great.
Okay.
But yeah. So you're not getting on a
No,
sub?
I'm not getting in there. I just think it's interesting that we are yet again going to try this, but I have a feeling this one's going to be done a little bit better than that last one. Not nearly as much. Like I said,
well, it's like a $20-30 million sub. I hope it works.
Yeah, you would hope. And only billionaires can afford to do this. I think each trip down there is, $500,000 or $250,000 just to go.
For me to go down there?
For anybody, yeah. I think that's basically the ticket price, what they're estimating once they get this thing up and running. So yeah, they've priced me out of that.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe Make-A-Wish can help us.
Well, you have to be dying first. You trying to tell me something? A woman who claims that her dog is a vegetarian gets proven wrong within seconds on live television. You can't make this stuff up. According to Metro UK, Lucy Carrington switched her female husky Storm to a meat-free diet earlier this summer after she started to tire of her previous diet. And I don't know if they mean Lucy was tiring of this or the dog was tiring of it. But she believed it was because her dog was a vegetarian. So she started giving the dog leftover vegetables instead of her usual meals. Now, I don't know how she ended up on a British television show. I guess she was trying to prove the fact. She probably went out on social, and they said, well, come on our show.
That's interesting.
Well, what she didn't know is they ambushed her with a nice, big old meaty dish of pork and beef, put it out there in front of that dog, next to, of course, a bowl of peas. And that dog completely ignored the vegetables and went right there on live TV and started eating, much to the surprise of Lucy Carrington, who was screaming, "Oh my God!"
Well, not even that. I think it's funny when people are reminded, oh, they're animals.
Right, exactly. And even vets will tell you that dogs are omnivorous. They eat both. They can eat plants and peas and things, but they also must have a good portion of meat in their diet. So this woman believing that her
they'll
dog
eat people.
Yeah, if you get hungry enough, anybody will eat people.
Well, that's one thing
you can milk anything with nipples. Dogs will get hungry enough, they'll eat
all
people.
All dogs go to heaven, we get it. But
right,
they'll still eat you. They don't care if you're the owner.
No, they really don't. I've heard that happen before.
I know, it happens all the time.
Owners die and
no, it literally happens all the time.
The dogs don't have anything to eat, so they go over there and start munching.
Yeah, because no one cares about that human being. No one checks on them.
Right, in those cases where maybe someone OD'd or something and they don't know where the person is.
Yeah, and then getting eaten by a dog.
Yeah. And then Storm comes over and goes, "Yes, I've been eyeing those ham hocks you got on the backside over there, Mom, for quite some time." Oh, God. A cast member dressed as Goofy allegedly groped by a guest at Walt Disney World. This is pretty funny, and I've heard reports like this before where the actors will press charges or have reports of patrons to Disney World acting inappropriately. And usually it's some 30-year-old woman who's had one too many glasses of Malbec or rosé and gets a little handsy with Gaston, But this one was a 63-year-old grandmother who reportedly got her a big old hand of Goofy's ass. So great. Yeah, so she was going more old school, more original for, the original cast of Goofy. But it's pretty funny. It says, per the reports, around 10:30 a.m., so she was getting frisky in the a.m., a family of four was visiting Goofy where he posed side by side with the grandma, who then allegedly put her arm around him, the victim. The grandmother then placed her right hand on his butt, squeezed her hand 3 times, and per the report said, "Woo-hoo." I love it. So, you go to Disney, you can go to the Disney, the Goofy area and get yourself a little handful of Goofy.
What I entertain myself with is the conversation Goofy had with his superiors.
Oh, yeah, having to report this. Do you think he took the mask off to make the report? Or he go in and say,
no, I bet
somebody
they'd fire
grabbed
him.
my butt.
I bet they'd fire him if he took the mask off.
No, I'm talking, he probably went back and talked to his boss, though, like behind
I thought you meant
closed doors.
like
They're right
someone grabs you and you're like, "What are you doing, lady?"
Oh, yeah, maybe.
And then that poor child from
was
like
into
20 yards away is like,
Goofy's a person. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, man, this is probably a pretty good time to take a break. When we come back, I have got a little bit of news to tell the onesies. I'm going to tell everybody about a syndrome that I have and see if anybody else can also relate to this who may be having
is it time blindness?
The same symptoms. No, not time blindness. Stick around to find out. Audience 1.
Okay, I know we're on a break, but
We were on a break.
I know we're on a break, but I'm getting tired of all these articles Andrew keeps sending me.
They're great, and you know it.
It's all trash.
Kind of the point.
But it got me thinking, Andrew. Mm-hmm. You, the listener, can submit articles
and
ideas and topics.
Yeah, they can.
audienceofoneshow@gmail.com.
That's correct.
Or Facebook, look up Audience of One Show with Andrew and Dick.
Otherwise, you're subject to stories about kids sleeping outside that apparently Dick cannot stand.
No. I mean, I'm tired of this fake news, and I know the cancer that is growing within Audience of One is Andrew and his terrible articles. So we need stories.
Come on, man. It's not that bad.
We need stories. So send us your ideas at audienceofoneshow@gmail.com. And Facebook, Audience of One with Andrew and Dick.
That's us.
All right. So we look forward to hearing from you guys. And hopefully we have better topics on the next episode.
And if we don't and they're still terrible, I suppose it's my fault.
Yes. All right. Welcome back to Audience of One here on Lone Star Community Radio. Here every Wednesday at 10 a.m. We're on podcast, YouTube, Facebook, all that kind of cool stuff. And then we're just going to continue the conversation here. It is the first week of June. Hanging out, summer, weather's getting crazy here.
At least we got air conditioning in the studio this time.
Oh, it caught up. It caught up.
That was bad last week.
But yeah, the weather's been kind of crazy.
Yeah, so when I left here last week, recording the show, I got stuck in a storm for a good 45 minutes. Yeah. Just barely made it to my car.
It wasn't just like a storm. Like it was. There was hail reported.
Yeah, I was under
tornadoes.
An awning when the hail was just coming down, and the wind was so sideways it didn't matter that I was underneath this cover because it was still hitting the side of my truck. No damage that I can tell, but it sounded pretty bad.
You know, it got me thinking. The other last week with the weather going up and down and crazy storms, and it was really hot in the studio.
Yes, it was.
We were at the bowling alley, and this lady kept complaining how cold it was. Mm-hmm. And she goes, "Can you just turn it up?"
Okay, yeah, turn the air temperature up.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, if she's not from Texas, I guess I can understand. But I feel like it's safe to say if you're from Texas, I would much prefer it to be cold.
Yeah, you're coming inside expecting it to be pretty chilly.
Yeah, like I'd be happy with what's going on right now. Because by the time you go outside and you walk around.
Did you determine her area of residence? Was she out? Was she a foreigner?
But it made me think. It's like, well, first off, she didn't really think of, I can't just ask this giant building to turn it up.
Apparently she did, and she thought that was an appropriate question to ask.
Oh, I know. It's just kind of like, well, yeah, we can turn it up, but by the time you leave, you might feel something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And,
it's going to take a little bit of time.
But it just got me thinking. It's like, I don't think I've ever been in a scenario where I'm like, especially with visiting a location, like, it might be cold. Mm-hmm. But I'm never like, can you just turn it up? Like, this is way too cold.
Yeah, just deal with it, man. Move a little, do some jumping jacks. Stand outside for a few minutes, or just bowl. Yeah, that would make you warm.
Yeah.
Did you hear that Roaring Kitty is back in the news? This is the GameStop stock guy that made fame a few years ago, and they even did the movie about him, Dumb Money.
Yeah.
Where he drove up the price of the stock in order to hurt the billionaires who were selling short on there. Well, he's back in the news and saying, let's do it again, round 2, baby. He apparently this time, because it started organically with just a couple thousand, then he kept adding to it.
Well, I don't think he's
got
did it.
190 million shares now. I think he owns roughly 10% of GameStop now, just himself.
I think he told people on the internet to do it.
Sure. Absolutely. He couldn't do it by himself because he was just one man, but he was encouraging others to do it, and it kept driving the price of the stock up, but he kept buying himself more and more and more and more. And I thought at the end of that movie, he ended up with like $30 or $40 million, and he's cashed out with some, kept some, but now I think he's got upwards of $190 million worth of stock or something ridiculous.
Yeah, he figured out his niche.
But my thought is, who's still selling short on GameStop? It's got to be the guys who didn't get out last time.
You're using language that I doubt a lot of people know what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, we'll just skip it, I guess. But
because I remember when I was reading about this, I go, hey, why does GameStop have a
stock
option?
They're a publicly traded company.
No, I know, but I figured it'd be part of some other bigger company.
Sure. Right.
Right. Like not GameStop itself. And then, because I told you the shock I've learned about GameStop and stores like that. They're considered pawn shops.
Are they now?
Legally. Yeah.
Oh, and probably some communities won't allow them, right? That's why. I guess it's because you're trading games in and out. Yeah, that's what it is.
And there was a workaround I think they did. There's like, in-store credit. So there's not cash being exchanged. So they could work around that. Because I used to, I was a cool kid and I played video games and I would always make deals. And that was kind of the way I made a lot of money was I'd go to school and I'm like, you don't want your old video games? I'll buy them for you, $100 for the box.
Sure.
And there'd be some good ones in there. And I remember because I became friends with the guy, and he's like, yeah, actually, we can't legally sell this to you, or we can't take it from you because you gotta get your mom. So I had to drag my mom out every time when I wanted to sell, $4,000 worth of video games. And
jeez, sounds like a racket, man.
Oh, it was. No, because I was in school, and it hit me because all my friends had like an old Sega Genesis or whatever, and they weren't. I mean, it was in a box somewhere.
I'll take it off your hands.
And I was over at a buddy's house.
You were muling their old games.
Oh, you were doing. 100%. Well, because this one guy had a box full, and his mom was like, literally, the mom comes in and is like, you need to get rid of this box. Like, I'm going to throw these away. And I was like, oh, man, I'll buy this from you, dude. And he's like, oh, well, they're my old games.
Instant cash right there.
And I was like, $100. I'll give you $100 for that. And he had a game in there that was worth $100.
Is it one of those counterfeit hundreds, though, we talked about?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
I mowed a lot of lawns. I had a job when I was 15. I had to get all parent signature and stuff.
You were a hustler back then, man.
But yeah, and that paid for my video game. Like, I was the only kid that had like all the video games.
Of course. Because
like,
you bought
every
them from
system,
everybody.
I had the computer, and I was like, everyone was wondering, like, where do you got all this money? I'm like,
well, then you, as a 15-year-old, would have benefited from GameStop stock going well up.
Well, do you remember that story when the GameStop thing first started with stock? And
2021, I think.
And that kid who was like 6 had one stock in it because his mom bought it for him for like a birthday gift.
It's like $2 probably when she bought it.
Yeah, well, because he loved GameStop.
Yeah,
and so he's like, I thought it'd be really fun.
Sold it at the peak at $400.
And I think that they did.
Nice.
So
and now that kid's addicted to smack. So we talked I guess it was last year, about the city of Kyle and attempting to set the record of a gathering of same-name individuals, the name of Kyle, that is. Well, they tried it again this year.
So back-to-back years.
Back-to-back. And I don't know how many years they've tried it previously. I hadn't heard about it until last year. And apparently they tried it again. Drum roll. They failed again. And what's weird about it this time is they got about half as many Kyles, about 800. Last year they had 1,600, I think.
Still a pretty good amount.
800 Kyles. Yeah, but I'm thinking the numbers are dwindling. The Kyles are losing the stomach for the fight here.
Well, let me look up.
I do like these types of events. As someone who's not really good, though, at remembering people's names, I'd like to go to that event because it's, pretty good chances I'm going to know everybody's name there.
Well, what's interesting to me, though, is there's 57,000 people that live in Kyle.
Yeah, the city's, it's a little suburb of Austin.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's not bad, not a bad little town.
But you got to be named Kyle to get credit for this, and they are not going to do it. They just need to give it up. Kyle's give it up. That or just try a different name.
But Kyle is a cool name.
Yeah, it's like the 486th most popular boy's name, apparently.
I can't believe there's a list for it.
Well, of course there is.
But no, what I it's funny though is they're wanting to do this all the time because it brings in a lot of people.
I mean, it brought in 800 people.
Well, plus significant others and kids, and
Sure.
so maybe double that.
Okay. You're saying it's a boon for the local Kyle economy.
Yeah.
Well, then they're going to keep it going until there's only 400 next year, and then the year after that it'd be like 3 dudes sitting around looking at each other playing dominoes.
See that
Hey,
would
Kyle.
that would be interesting.
Sup, Kyle?
If they do it every year, right? And it's like the Home of Kyle, right? They call it the Home of Kyle Festival. And then like 30 years later, they started noticing all these people are living there, and like Kyle is 20% of all the male names or something.
And they travel in for this event and realize, this is where I want to stay.
They're calling me in.
I feel like I'm at home.
And then all the people who are just silly, who name their kids, like, oh, we live in Kyle, let's call him Kyle. Kind of like people named Dallas. I always thought that was an interesting name.
706 Kyles. I said 800. Yeah, Dallas is a pretty interesting name.
Because, I mean, Kyle actually sounds like it was a name before a city named Kyle.
Sure.
But Dallas just sounds like a town, and then someone called him Dallas.
It's very possible. Was he from Dallas?
I don't know. Where does the name Dallas come from?
I don't know, man.
Let's look it up.
You're asking questions.
I only know one Dallas,
don't
and he's a
know.
pretty cool guy. But because Houston came from Sam Houston.
So that's what I've heard.
That's easy.
That's what I've heard.
But Dallas,
Maybe it was like Jonathan Dallas.
you think so?
I don't know.
Let's see.
I have a question to ask you because I don't know how quickly you're going to arrive at this answer. When you hear a sound around your house, like a strange sound, let's say you're watching a movie and you hear a noise at night, it comes from the back of the house or something. What do you typically do? Do you just ignore it and
I
go,
scream really loudly,
Like a
and I
little-
shoot at least 2 warning shots off.
okay, into the air or in the direction of the sound?
Sound. Oh, yeah.
Okay, at the direction of sound. That's one way of going about it.
Yeah.
So you don't inspect, you just shoot first.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of 50-50 on this. A lot of times I just think, that was nothing, it was the wind. But sometimes I do feel like I need to inspect. But I've heard this theory, though, that if you have you hear a sound, it ends up being a home intruder, that if you approach that intruder naked, you have a better chance of scaring off the intruder than you would otherwise. And the thinking here is the intruder comes in thinking, oh, I'm going to surprise these guys. And he's not expecting to see a naked man coming right at him and most likely will run off.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying here, Dick, is when you hear a strange sound around the house, the best thing to do is probably drop your trousers and go and inspect. But now let's flip that situation around. And let's say the intruder is naked, okay? It doesn't work the same way. Now, I'm going to be scared no matter what if I have an intruder in my house. But if I see the intruder's naked, I kind of think, this guy's kind of crazy. He's not really that dangerous. He's just a naked, crazy guy.
I would start shooting.
That's right. I know you shoot first.
Yeah.
And then you go, dang it, that was the cat. Oh, well,
Or really, dang it.
Yeah.
Really?
Whoops, guess what we're having for dinner. No, but I mean, seriously, if, like, the guy comes in, he's naked, I'm like, oh, he's just a crazy naked guy. I'm less worried about it. But then the opposite scenario, you got to be naked. So that is the audience of one PSA for the week. Intruders, beware of the naked man. Beware of the naked man. All right, man, staying on this topic of hearing sounds, as teased, I wanted to bring to air a syndrome that I have identified with for many, many years, and it happened to me just this past week. And I don't know if anybody else has experienced this or not. So for years, and I think I self-diagnosed this, but for years I will be laying down. It's usually when I'm laying down in bed at night. I will hear what I think is, of course, because I'm expecting an intruder.
Yeah.
I will hear what I believe to be either a soft radio on in the background or like playing just a song, an indistinct song, like a guitar riff that I can't quite make out, or it's like talk radio, just talk, but I can't make out the words they're saying. And I've said something to my wife before. I said, do you hear something? She's like, no. I'm like, I swear I hear a radio. And then I would sit up and the sound would stop. And I'd lay back down and the sound would start again.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, what is this? Well, finally, I realized that it was only happening while I had my fan on. And so this happened to me last week where I was laying down in bed and I kept hearing a song over and over and over and over. And I was waiting for the song to stop and it wouldn't. I said, oh, here's this thing again. So I leaned up, sat up, sound went away, laid back down, sound came back. And so I decided to look this up, and it's actually a thing. And it is called musical ear syndrome. And it's a relatively common phenomenon where where you hear non-tinnitus phantom sounds that are not psychiatric in nature. So you're not hearing voices, you're not going crazy. But typically it says you would hear sounds like music, singing, voices, blah, blah, blah. They're mostly vague. And I thought, wow, this is a thing. I'm not crazy. Has this ever happened to you?
I want to say yeah, maybe. Because I definitely had it where you're like certain parts of the house, you can hear, like, for example, like if like growing up, like if my sister had the radio on in her room, for some reason, like the bathroom across.
But you're hearing
hear it.
But you're hearing the actual radio.
Yeah, but you can hear it through like the wall.
But you're hearing the radio.
But it's on the opposite end of the house. I'm talking about in the pipes.
Yeah, you're just hearing something's
It's
making
like the
an acoustic
vibration
sound.
Yeah, it's like carrying. You're like, well, how am I able to hear it? Because even if I go outside the bathroom, I don't hear it. But it's only when I'm near this wall, whatever her speakers was against the wall, you can hear like everything. And it's like across the house, too. That's what's so bizarre to me.
Well, you're actually hearing the real radio, but this is where it gets really, really
so you're
interesting.
saying I hear a consistent noise,
and
then my
your brain
interprets
it as something else. Now, here's where it's really interesting, because there's actually two categories of musical ear syndrome. In the first category, there's no apparent external stimulus for the phantom sounds. So
you're hearing it.
You're truly hearing something that doesn't. But in the second category, that doesn't exist. In the second category, which is the one I suffer from, is the singing or sounds are triggered by unrelated external background noises, usually, like they said, a fan.
Yeah, it happens to me when I'm in the ocean.
Okay.
But I hear ocean sounds. So like I'm in the ocean.
Would that be? Well, that wouldn't be musical.
Nah.
That would just you're hearing the ocean if you're in the ocean, right?
Yeah, like you ever been in the ocean for a long period of time?
Yeah.
And then when you get home and you get in bed, you can still feel the waves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you could still kind of
hear it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I was also, that's when I do a lot of drugs too. So
this is true. But basically, what their scientists are attributing this to is our brains are trying to categorize the noise into something more recognizable. And we do this with our vision too. Have you ever been at a baseball game and you're sitting behind a portion where the net is, and the net has all these little tiny squares? Eventually the squares start to form bigger squares till sometimes it looks like it goes away completely. And then maybe you'll blink and all the squares will be there again. And what it's doing is your brain is trying to simplify in your mind all of those distortion and distractions into something easier, and eventually it just goes away. Same thing with the fan. It's hearing this nondescript sort of sound, and your brain starts to try and formulate it into something that it understands, which is usually like talking or music. And it happens to me all the time. But I'm not crazy, according to science.
That's nice. It happens every time you talk to me.
Yeah. Wait, you hear sounds? What? This doesn't make sense.
Why is Andrew singing to me? Careless whisper. That's all he sings.
That's all he sings. Is that the song you normally hear?
Yeah.
It's got a couple of other names to it. Apophenia, from the Greek words apo, meaning away, and phania means to show. Anyways, so onesies, if you're out there and you're experiencing this is musical ear syndrome. You are normal. It is your brain trying to categorize things to be normal in your head, I suppose. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, man. So I bet you this is happening to you. You probably haven't even noticed it. Now you're going to go home and go, oh, I hear it. I hear it. Careless whisper.
Okay.
Well, in a related story, do you know who the actress Mary Steenburgen is? Well, she went under the knife from a minor surgery a couple of years ago and woke up with her brain acting in a completely different way. She admitted that after she had this surgery, she felt strange, but it ended up changing her how her mind works. She said after the surgery, her brain changed how it processed a lot of things, but mostly music. The star woke up with a sudden musical ability, something that she had not had in her 60 years before. And now she has been she's 71 years now, has been written or co-written more than 40 songs and has even been signed by Universal Music. All because she went under for a routine surgery and came out singing.
Well, what songs?
Somewhere under the rainbow. It doesn't say, but I'm sure you could probably look it up. Probably Ice Ice Baby or something like that, I'm sure. I don't know. Toxic. Some of the stuff you listen to.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should get her to write some of the intros for Audience of One. Pretty crazy though, man.
This is what I like. She's married to Ted Danson.
Is she?
Cheers? Yeah.
No.
Her husband of 29 years, Ted Danson, was on edge over the change though. In the beginning, at first it was scary and threatening to our relationship. Right?
Yeah.
She was
sounds something like
is she
something
is she
Ted
humming
Danson
to
would say.
herself or is she pissed off? I can't tell. What's going on in this relationship?
I guess it was probably one of those things where she was going around the house singing songs all the time, and she hadn't done this before, and he's like, "The old lady's annoying me. What are you doing?" But now she's turning it into making some money and co-writing songs. He's probably okay with
That's
it
how you
now.
make your man happy these days. Role reversal, baby.
She hears music all the time. Interesting stuff. Have you ever
What would
heard-
happen if you hear music all the time, but it's like terrible music?
Yeah, so for me, what I hear, like I said, it's just basically indistinct. I can't tell what it is.
I know in her condition.
in her condition.
She's got this thing where she's like, "Oh, I gotta get it out now because I'm listening."
Reggaeton is all she hears.
It's all
Oh my God,
it's
I
all
hate
reggae
this.
or death
reggae.
metal or something. And you're
Yeah.
like, all right.
I gotta get this out of my mind somehow. Have you ever heard the concept or the theory that we only use 10% of our brains?
I've heard it before.
Yeah. Do you believe that?
I don't know.
I kind of did, only
wouldn't.
because I'd heard it over and over again.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't really know.
Well, it's actually a myth. We do use our entire brains, as shocking as that may seem to some folks that you encounter in everyday life. But apparently it is a complete myth that they, I guess, studied
I feel
years
more
ago.
I feel like I don't use my brain 100% of the time.
I would believe that. Is now one. Audience of One is one of those
Yeah.
times.
Like might be.
Last week was a good example of it, by the way.
Yeah.
Last week
It
was a
was
tough
so
one.
hot. But I mean, what I mean by that saying is, it's near impossible to use it all your entire brain resource at one time. Like your brain has different functions. So
Right. No, I don't think you're using 100% of it at one time, but I think that the idea was we're only using 10% of it at any one given time.
Yeah, because it's always that supernatural kind of thing.
Right,
where
and there's
it's like,
90% of it just waiting. And it's like if you could tap into maybe we walk through walls or something crazy. Well, apparently in the Medical News Today survey from 2013 found that around 65% of Americans believe that we only use 10% of our brain. And again, I think I would have fallen into that 65% only because I had heard it. But they debunked that. In the Frontiers of Human Neuroscience, they did a study where they put the human brain under, what do they call it, an fMRI, which is a functional magnetic resonance imaging, to study brain, activity during different activities. And they showed that basically every corner and recess of the brain was being used during different activities. So we're using it all. Sadly, I was hoping I still had some in the tank, but that's not the case, man. It's not the case.
Not the case.
I was hoping you had a little more to could crack open, but looks like this is it. This is all we got. This is it. Dick, do you remember the story we did about the Japanese man who spent $16,000 on a lifelike collie costume, dressed up like a dog? Yeah. Well, he's back at it again, but this time he says he has an interest in transforming into either another type of dog, a panda, a bear, or a fox or cat. And I'm thinking if he dresses up like a panda, he could go get a job at the Chinese zoo, right? Aren't they the
Yeah.
ones faking?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so weird.
This is crazy. Well, this guy's name is Toko, and he has kept his identity secret, basically, because he fears, people making fun of him or whatever. But he wants to expand this, and I think a lot of it is the fact that it's hard to walk like a dog. So if he's doing something like a bear, he can stand up every now and again and kind of stretch his legs.
Yeah.
But let's put yourself into this situation, man. Picture yourself. You're with your best friend. I mean, this is the guy that you can tell anything to, right?
Yeah.
He comes to you one day and says, "Hey, Dick, I'm gonna start dressing up like an orangutan." Do you go with it, man? I mean, how far do you take this? At a certain point, someone's got to tell Toko no. This is a classic example of somebody never being told no.
No, I don't believe that at all.
You support Toko and his
It's more of
canine
like,
endeavors.
at one point, you yourself can say, I don't need to hang out with Toko anymore because he's always dressing up like a dog.
But he's your friend.
And I'd be like, hey, Toko, if you want to go meet me for lunch, you're not coming as a dog.
Well, you got to accept your friend as he is. Take off the dog costume, put on the panda.
See, if he was like a great friend, like a true friend,
Uh-huh.
I would mess with him all the time.
How?
Well, if he's dressing up like a dog, I'd carry around bacon strips.
Bacon. They're called bacon strips. Okay.
No, real bacon.
Oh, real bacon. Oh, I'm
right?
Eat that. Mm-hmm.
And then I carry around like 100% cocoa chocolate because that would kill a dog.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd be like, you want some of this? And then he'd be like, oh, yeah, it's so good. I'm like, got you good. It's 100% cocoa. You're dead. And then he didn't die. I'm like, you're not a dog.
You're not a very good friend.
No, I would still mess with them. And then like,
No, that's how I treat my friends.
I'm like, hey, let's meet over here. And we meet. And then we're like going down the street. And then it's a cat park. Mm-hmm. I'm like, aren't you going to go play?
Go chase, but he can't run very well.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying. It'd be hilarious to watch him. Just like, I could just defeat him. The self-defeat. It's like, I can't chase things.
Are you showing
I'm
the
showing
video?
the video. I'm showing the video in the
Watching
background.
him try and climb up the dog,
That's
apparatus there, and he's rolling over on his back. But the costume is amazing, and he does a pretty good job of moving like a dog, but that's gotta be rough on your back and your legs after a while. Yeah, I think he needs to experience
I think it'd be hilarious because he's on his knees.
Go
right
orangutan
now.
though, because you can literally get up and walk normal.
But that's how I'd get him.
Well, he says it is.
We go to the store and there'd be like frisbees everywhere.
You gotta throw. Dang it! I gotta go chase it.
I gotta
again.
go chase it. Like we'll go to the beach where he has to clean his costume, and he won't say that. He's like, "Well, dogs go to the beach all the time, Toko.
They love the water. Jump in.
I mean, go do it. Oh, the dry cleaning bill is gonna be so expensive."
He says it is a really happy experience to be able becoming something other than myself. I get excited and happy being someone other than myself. Well, congratulations, Toko.
I get it.
We'll keep up with him though and see what animal
But I
he
would
decides.
mess with him, 100%.
Yeah, we'll see what animal he decides to become next. So last week we talked about microplastics in the human body, especially found in the male testicles. Well, this is a story from
Well, they're
Newsweek.
found everywhere in your body.
Yes, I know, but we focused on the part that's most important to us as men.
Okay, sure.
This is from Newsweek. It's actually a few months old, but they have discovered a way to create a pair of tiny artificial testicles in a lab. Hey, you can identify with that. A couple of tiny artificial
Yeah,
testicles.
it took a lab to identify mine.
Yes. Anyways, scientists hope to provide solutions to male infertility and improve our understanding of testicular development and function. So there we go. I think, by default here, on accident really, we have found the solution to the microplastics in our nuts. Just use some of these artificial ones, these fake ones. Yeah, and I think they actually can carry stuff, yeah.
Well, they can put that stuff directly into the belly now of the woman with an egg already.
It's not nearly as much fun.
Well, yeah, but okay.
It says artificial testicles are a promising model for basic research on testicle development and function, which can be therapeutic applications for disorders of sexual development and infertility. There you go, Dick. Tiny little artificial nuts. Love it. Are we after the 55-minute mark? I need to know that for this next story.
I mean, we can just go for it.
Okay, well, I've got some audio I want you to play, but basically, well, you know what? Let's play the audio first, because I think it's going to speak for itself. If you've got it queued up there, you let me know.
This woman obviously had lost her damn mind. She needs psychotropic medication. She pulls out her breasts, and she's juggling them.
Yeah,
Look
she
like
is.
she's about to fall over.
Oh, my.
Then she bends over and pulls down her panties. Spreads her cheeks. I'm not lying.
That lady to her right, it's like...
Spreads her cheeks. This is madness.
Yes, madness. Well, what this man is referring to, this is
should
Quanell
never
X, who is a community activist in
This woman should
Houston,
never be allowed to walk
talking
around
about a
children
Houston teacher that was
ever
accused
again.
of making a pornographic video while on the clock in her classroom. In a video that surfaced online, the teacher remains anonymous, or unidentified, not anonymous, but appeared to strip and expose herself in a classroom in the Lamar Consolidated Gray Elementary School. I just laughed at the Quanell X description of the lady's activities.
Yeah, I mean, that was creative. Well, it's funny is I always laugh about these kind of scenarios because clearly this is a crazy scenario. But the way he was going into it in detail, I was like, is he literally
So
going to... Well,
so
no, the
unnecessary.
next thing he's going to say is her OnlyFans account. Because, like, this guy's getting paid to promote this woman. And
Yeah,
the
right. It
worst-
did almost seem like he
Like
was
he's-
promoting it.
yeah.
Yeah. And so what happens in minute number 3 is it's pretty great.
And I thought he said, when you first sent it to me, I thought it said, and she poured pennies all over her.
She pulled down her panties.
But yeah, with the way you
love
said,
the way he
but
says
the
it.
way I heard it, I was
Awesome.
like, she poured pennies on herself.
He gets a little bit more graphic earlier in that video. We're not going to actually play it, but it's hilarious, man.
It gets even crazier.
Yeah, earlier in the video, that was I had it queued up at that part. He talks a little more graphically about what he sees in the video. But it's just only the way that Quanell X can deliver that message is really the reason why I'm bringing it up to date. But I'm sure this teacher will be found out soon enough and will probably, most likely, lose her job. Hey, come on, man. We all make a little porn at work, right?
Come on, man.
I mean, I know you've done countless videos here in the studio. Not this studio, the old studio.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
of course. I don't want to get you in trouble. The old studio. The statute of limitations has passed on that now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think your next one's going to be called Dick in the News, right?
In the nude?
Yes, that too. Well, it did say the video was reportedly intended for OnlyFans. And according to the reports, the unidentified teacher isn't facing any criminal charges yet, but an investigation into the incident has been launched. And, of course, I haven't seen the video, but I don't think there were any children in the video. It's not like she was doing this in front of... She was just in her classroom probably during recess or something, and she said, now's the time to make some content. She's just a creator, Dick. That's all she is. She's just a creator.
You know what's funny is that... Isn't that like happening a lot with teachers? Not necessarily on campus doing this stuff, but like they find out like, oh hey, she's got an OnlyFans account.
I've heard about this. We've talked about it.
Yeah, and it's like now
they end up getting fired for it.
Well, no, they're suing and stuff because it's like you can't fire me.
Well,
so
they get fired, then they countersue. Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, all right, clearly the law is going to have rules, and I know there's probably some rules about using like the school to make your footage.
I would imagine this is probably not.
Yeah,
It's in the bylaws somewhere.
It's not going to get.
It was in the fine
in her
print she didn't
favor.
read. No, I don't think it's going to end in her favor. But I do think some of these lawsuits that you mentioned probably are going to end up in the favor of the plaintiff, right? That would be what they would be.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if they're doing something on their own time and they're not representing the school at that time, I think they probably do have a case.
Because I always wondered.
But I don't know.
I always wonder what people would go to the lengths of like proving the law wrong. Because like, what happens if you create, like, say you are a librarian, right?
A sexy
And
librarian.
A sexy librarian.
Thank you.
And you know, like, you're not very creative in the sense of, I just need to make a set. So I just take a picture of my library and I recreate that exact look in my basement.
Okay, yeah.
Like, you can't get in trouble for that.
Can't imagine unless you wrote the name of the library.
Yeah.
You know, Conroe Library or whatever, right on the side to mimic it. Yeah, I don't think that you could get in trouble for that.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. But things to consider before you make some nudie movies. This is the quick hit here at the end of the show, Dick. This is kind of funny, and this is indeed a quick hit. But an ambulance collided with a moose early Sunday. Yeah, I guess that can happen, especially if you're up north somewhere where there's
We watched those
moose.
videos
Yeah,
before.
that's true. That's right. You did show me the video of a moose getting hit by a small automobile.
It didn't just get hit. It got launched like SpaceX.
Like Meet Joe Black style. He went flying, man. You did show me that. Well, this ambulance collided with a moose early Sunday as it was responding to another crash involving a moose. Can't make this stuff up. So this poor moose gets it twice. I'm assuming it's the same moose. Oh my gosh. The first crash was reported just after 1 a.m. on Highway 60 near T Lake, in Algonquin Park. A vehicle struck a moose, left the roadway, and then hit a tree. This sounds terrible. And then again, another ambulance comes to respond, collided with the very same moose. Police said, adding that the ambulance was extremely damaged, but no one was injured. Damn, gotta watch out for them moose, man. How do you think that moose is feeling right about now? Now, if he survives it, think about that.
Oh, moose are tough.
They are massive. And he's like, I didn't survive just
tough.
one. I survived two. All right, Dick, that is all we have got time for this week. I hope the show was sufficient to all the onesies after last week's debacle.
I still can't believe the Pantas.
The what?
The drops of Pantas. I can't do it. Do it. You do it. You do it better.
Panties.
Because I thought you said pennies.
No, panties.
The pennies.
Maybe she was dropping some pennies in a later shot, bending over. I don't know.
Kids these days.
I don't know how old she was. It doesn't say. Unidentified. Let's find her. Next week on Audience of One.
I don't want to look that up at all.
I don't either.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Andrew, it was such a pleasure to see you today.
Yes.
I can't wait till we hang out And
this summer, baby, it's on.
Summertime,
debauchery.
baby.
The debauchery begins. Later, Swinsies.